This March, Minnesotans will be voting in a presidential primary. Many Minnesotans have shared their concerns that the government will be recording which party ballot they choose. In Minnesota, we have a history of protecting people's private information. This instance should be no different. Your vote is your business. This session, I will introduce legislation that would prohibit the government from recording which ballot voters choose. This change would apply in our presidential primary on March 3rd. This bill makes one change and one change only. Voting preferences will not be recorded by the government. How, where, and when you vote will remain the same. The only difference is the government will not record your political party preference. Other details of the bill are contained in your press handout, and with that, I will be glad to take questions.
So you're asking to basically invalidate the part of the statute or undo the part of the statute that both parties demanded would be in, or their national parties wouldn't acknowledge, wouldn't recognize this primary.
Right. Upon hearing from members of the public and other members of the legislature have been hearing the same things, that people in the public have a concern about their party preference being recorded and becoming out there, shall we say. And so, in essence, that's what this would do.
What would happen for the people who've already voted and their preferences already been collected?
Right. This bill allows for that, requires that information to be purged.
When you look back to 2016, I mean, should there have been more restrictions put in that original legislation so that this conversation isn't happening so close to this primary?
I think probably so, and I think what we've heard from the public too is given a lot of legislators, you know, maybe pause to think about, should we have done that in the first place? You know, we were trying to respond, as you know, in 2016, we had record turnout at both caucuses. And so, excuse me, there was great concern and outcry from the public at that time that we needed a different system. But, you know, I think back now, and I still like the caucus system. I believe I voted for this primary, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind looking at it again.
Is this an admission that the legislature made a mistake?
I think it's an admission, because I voted in 2019 to make this information private, which really, I don't really know that it does that, because it's going out to two non-government and, you know, several government entities. So I don't know that it's a mistake, admitting a mistake, other than just we're hearing more from the public now, and maybe, you know, we need to be responsive to that.
Do we have any sense of how many companies, businesses, entities who have either prohibited or advising their employees not to vote because of this?
I have not heard on that, Mary, I don't know.
But we do know it exists.
It exists, and some of what I'm hearing from members is that, you know, they have people, especially small business owners, that are very concerned about that information getting out there about them and having possible retaliation.
And government entities too, especially you're hearing from city and county.
Yeah, I mean, we were hearing that. The Star Tribune article spoke to that, right? So there are concerns at levels of government and in the public, and in the, obviously with small businesses and other entities. So yeah, it's a concern across the board. Yeah.
DFL Chair Martin expressed concern that if that information is not turned over to the National Party, they may have problems seating the Minnesota delegation at the Democratic National Convention. Two-part question. Is that, to your knowledge, also a problem? We should probably ask the Republican chair, but maybe you know. Is that also going to be a problem at the GOP convention? And if so, are you diluting Minnesota's voice, either the Republican or the Democratic voice, at the national conventions with this bill?
Right. I don't think so, but I'm going to let Representative Garofalo answer that question. And just so you know, Representative Garofalo had on the floor, when we passed this in 2016, he had the amendment that said that this information would never be public, that you wouldn't even record that information. So go ahead, Pat.
You want to state the questions again?
Well, Chair Martin said that if that information is not provided to the National Party, he may have problems seating the Minnesota delegation at the National Democratic Convention. Is that the case at the Republican Convention? Question number one. Question number two, if not, are you diluting Minnesota's influence at either the Democratic or the Republican national conventions disproportionately?
Sure. Well, with Minnesota's status as a swing state, if the Democrats want to remove Minnesota's delegates from their convention, they're more than welcome to. Anything they do to help make Minnesota a more Republican state, we'd appreciate.
Does this bill
But
enable
no,
that?
it does not. It is a falsehood. It is a falsehood that both political party leaders will repeat, and it is 100% not true. In 2016, Minnesota conducted a Republican straw poll. There was no requirement to even fill out who you were, where you were. You didn't have to be you could have walked in as a non-Minnesota resident and voted in that straw poll. And Marco Rubio won those delegates, and those delegates were binding at the state convention. There was no effort to repeal it. It's a 100% falsehood that both party leaders are repeating. And they will repeat it over and over again. And Minnesotans are frankly, they're not happy with these scare tactics because it's not true. The second point is to dilution, no, because it's not gonna happen. It's a falsehood.
Well, if I understand, one follows the other. You're saying that Chair Martin is not telling the truth? He's the deputy national chair. Is he not telling the truth about the potential effect of this?
Well, there's a potential effect that it could elect me president. I mean, you could make that assertion, right? It's just not true. They are not going to remove delegates that are duly apportioned from the state of Minnesota at their national conventions. If they did, it would be a political disaster for them in the state of Minnesota. The Republican Party, we had a straw poll 4 years ago, and our delegates were seated with no opposition.
How concerned are we about voter turnout? Minnesota loves to brag about leading the nation in
Right.
voter turnout. Do we think this could definitely have an effect on suppression of numbers?
Right, that's one of the main reasons for bringing the bill is I think that's having a chilling effect. We're hearing that over and over from our constituents and the people from Minnesota.
Don't the parties already know a ton of information about us, and can't they already decide you're a Republican, you're a Democrat? I mean, what's the difference?
I believe so. I believe there's plenty of data out there on each of us, unfortunately. But I felt strongly, being an advocate for people's private information and being a guardian of that, I just felt strongly that I needed to do something on this issue.
What kind of response have you received from your colleagues? I mean, do you think it is feasible to get this done in time for it to take effect before the primary?
Right, it's been a mixed bag, and, but we'll just see what happens.
Ahead of this press conference, Senator Kiffmeyer said she still feels the same way she did last week. She's not open to this change. Do you have plans to speak with her, or are there other ways that you can get this through?
I've spoken with her, and I will let her speak for herself.
The Secretary of State's office has said it'll take them maybe 8 to 10 weeks to turn over this data to the parties. So would your hope be that you could get this passed before the primary even happens? Or?
Right, so the hope would be to pass it before the primary happens, and then any information that has already been gathered and recorded would be purged.
How much urgency? Do you want this day one to get on it?
Well, I'm certainly going to introduce it right away. So, I mean, obviously, time is of the essence if we want to change something this year.
And have you talked to the majority to try and move it quickly? Have you talked to any Democrats?
So I put it out there for all of them, the Democrats and the Republicans. Both caucuses are well aware of what I'm doing here. And so the information's out there, and we're kind of still waiting to see what kind of feedback we get from both parties, or primarily Democrats.
Sorry, do you have co-authors?
Not yet. I mean, I haven't even got the bill in front of me. I've got just the draft language, and I don't have an actual bill to sign. But I've heard from a couple of Democrats that are interested.
What argument, Representative, would you make to your Senate counterpart, or well, to the main person in the Senate, Senator Kiffmeyer, on this to try to change her mind that you need to move forward with it?
Right. Representative Kiffmeyer, I think, has been with us on some other data privacy issues, and I guess I would just appeal to her that this is another data privacy issue, and we need to honor what the public is saying back to us about this process.
Chairwoman Carnahan specifically said, and when I spoke to her, that she had not heard one complaint via email, text, Facebook message, Twitter about this. I'm hearing that you guys are hearing complaints. Representative Garofalo just spoke about both party chairs. Specifically, Chairwoman Carnahan works for you. Have you talked to her about this issue and these disagreements? What have you said?
Yeah, I've had a conversation with her, and she knows where I stand on the issue and respects that.
Wasn't there a deal cut in 2016 between the parties? They agreed to take part in the primary if they could use it. They would use the primary for their delegate distribution if they had this list. So you're taking the deal you made with the parties away and expecting that they still stick with this deal?
Well, I think one of the things as a legislator that it's important to do is to be able to pivot and also respond to the public. When we've got a new piece of legislation out there, people are not used to this primary process. And so when they are hearing that their party preference is going to be recorded, it gives them a lot of discomfort. And quite frankly, in the last 4 years, there's reason, there's valid reason for people to have concern over retaliation. And so that's what I'm trying to fix here.
Right, but so then they wouldn't have cut the deal in 2016 and we'd be writing about caucuses.
Perhaps not, or maybe they would have structured the primary process a little differently. I don't know. I mean, that's pure
I
speculation,
don't know
so.
of a primary state in this country that does not make a list available to the parties, not one.
I think there are some out there, but I don't have that information in front of me. I think NCSL might have some
But to
information.
that question, all around the country, this process happens, and either the parties or often the entire public knows what somebody's registration is. And why should Minnesotans be so concerned about that, and why are we so special?
So we're special because we have a track record of guarding people's data privacy. From the Minnesota Health Records Act, we're the only ones that have a Chapter 13 that's exclusively for that purpose of government transparency and personal privacy. So I think we've already set ourselves apart in that realm.
Some people would say that it's easier for you folks to blow off the national party because your candidate is running unopposed, and that you're putting Democrats in a tougher position here.
Well, that doesn't really have any, that doesn't play into my decision to do this. I'm doing this because I've heard from people that are concerned that their information is going to get out there and they're afraid of what will happen as a result. So whatever happens, both parties should be treated equally.
I'm just curious, have you heard more from people who are concerned that they're Republican picking or they're Democratic picking, one party or the other?
Well, some people in their emails to me have not specified, right? But some of them are looking at what's happening on the national landscape, and the majority of those instances that I've heard about anyway have been people that are conservatives or Trump supporters or something like that that have been retaliated against.
What about independents? Do we have a significant amount of independent voters, non-party ID in Minnesota? Did we just forget about them or discount them?
Well, I think there's a point to be made within your question, and that is, let's say that there's a third of people in the state of Minnesota that are Republicans, there's a third that are Democrats, and there's a third in the middle that could swing either way. So how valuable is this data gonna be? Because in one primary, they may vote on the Democrat side, and the next one, they may vote on the Republican. So I don't know how valuable the data will actually be from the presidential primary to start with, but I think you bring up a good point that there are people that they're gonna switch back and forth anyway because they are more independent-minded. So
And should that have been an option, that people
I
would
think
pick
so.
independent but still vote either side?
Well, I think so. I think we probably, if we do that, we have to look at the whole process again, right? It'd have to be looked at again. The entire primary law would have to be looked at, and we'd have to go from there. There's so many moving parts to this, I think, at this point.
Have you spoken to the governor's office at all on this?
No, I have not.
Are you open to compromise at all? There's a proposal out there that would allow for this information to go just to the major parties, not to state parties, with an opt-out provision for voters. Are you open to that idea?
I think the effect of that would be the same
Have you spoken with,
as what is happening now.
have you spoken with Secretary Simon? That's basically his.
Yeah, no, I have not.
Now, going back to that though, you're saying it would effectively be the same, but if this does not move forward, is that something that you would support or you would consider?
Again, I don't know that is gonna have the overall effect that they think it's going to. At the end of the day, your data is still gonna be disseminated to the national parties, right? So they're gonna do with it, put it in databases, whatever they're gonna do with it anyway. So whether the state parties get it or not, I don't think that's, if it only goes to the national parties, I don't think it's gonna change the fact that your data is still out there and could come back to hurt you.
So I was interpreting it that they were using the data just to verify the validity of the primaries.
I don't know. I'm open to listening for sure, but I don't know that just collecting the data alone is my major issue with this whole thing.
Well, they were saying that the national parties wanted to verify that Republicans weren't unduly influencing the nominating process on the Democratic side and vice versa. But I'm not sure how they would verify that since we don't register by party anyway.
Well, again, I don't know how valuable the data is going to be either way. I mean, they already know which TV shows I watch, what I subscribe to, and there's so much information out there anyway. I just don't know how valuable this information is to them. But at the same time, people have expressed to us, I want to make that abundantly clear here, that the major reason for bringing this forth is the public is saying, we don't want our data out there on this particular issue, and that's why we're doing this today.
We're out of time, but if you want to talk to Representative Scott, we can set that up.
Yeah, may I just ask one more, Representative, if you don't mind? You find this unusual that you're in some ways allied with the Democrats on this particular issue, at least the Democratic Party chair, I guess?
Well, I don't know that I'm aligned with the Democrat Party chair, because I think both chairs want the information. They want the data. So I don't know that I'm aligned with anybody except the public. So, thank you.